Okay, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
وعليكم السلام.
Okay, jazakallah khairan. Okay, so today, inshallah, we will be covering ayah number 3 of Surah Al-Mulk. Yesterday we started looking in a little bit more depth at the heavy letters. Inshallah, we will be taking that a little bit further today. We'll also be looking at the letters that have itbaq, and also discussing just a little bit that I didn't mention yesterday that I wanted to mention about the heavy letters. Time is an issue for me at the moment. There's only so much I can say in the 30 minutes. So inshallah, we'll keep building up a little bit of knowledge, inshallah, each day. Okay, let's bring up the next ayah. Okay, here we go. Okay, so again, we will start off inshallah with the word that we're very familiar with and we have covered. We're quite familiar with the first two words actually here. So I'm going to say them inshallah both together. We'll start off with the isti'adha as usual. As we said, as I think Sister Zuleika mentioned, saying the isti'adha before you start reciting Quran. This is something that you must do. It is actually a command that Allah has given to us in the Quran itself. Where he says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فإذا قرأت القرآن فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. That when you start reciting the Quran, start with the isti'adha. Make sure that you seek refuge from the shaitan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الذي خلق.
الذي خلق.
Good. So, alhamdulillah, I heard you do the two count mad tabi'i here with the ya. I heard you say the lam. I heard you pause on it before you said the fatha, doing the tawassut of it. The ha and the qaf are nice and heavy. We'll try that one more time. الذي خلق.
الذي خلق.
So just for the listeners, that I want you to be careful with the word khalaqa. If you find that you're saying khala, the lam is pronounced as a la, khalaqa, then that means your lam is heavy, and that is not correct in this case. You want to move from a heavy kha to a light lam, and then back to a heavy qaf. You're shifting here, and so if you recite more slowly, it'll make it easier for you to make that transition from heavy to light and then back to heavy again. Khalaqa. Okay, right, moving on. We have the next word, sab'a.
سبع.
Sab'a.
سبع.
So you notice here we have the ba, we have the qalqala of the ba, the bouncy. It's one of the bouncy letters, or the letters that have qalqala. The qalqala here should be said really with no effort. It's almost like it's something that comes very naturally. So if you can see me, it's something where you're not forcing the bounce. So you're not saying, for example, sab, you're not forcing that b, right? You're not saying b, you're not forcing it. It's something that comes naturally. So as your lips come together, it's like, for example, if you have a bouncy ball, they often say if you throw a ball against the wall, or even if you've got a bouncy ball and you're throwing it against the table, as it sort of, it's a very natural, as it hits with the natural, with the energy that it hitting the table, that same energy is helping to make it rebound off again. So the way that your lips come together for the ba, then naturally you just do a natural bounce with your lips. Okay, so it's not a forced bounce. It's not something which you're pushing extra energy into doing. Okay, so you'll say, for example, sab, sab, sab. I'm not saying sab, sab, right? I'm saying sab, sab, sab. Let your lips just come, bounce off each other very naturally, and keep the sound of your voice going. Okay, let's try that again. Sab'a.
سبع.
Sab'a.
سبع.
Then we have the next word, samawatin. Now, let me explain this first. So we have now these are all light letters. Okay, we mentioned the heavy letters yesterday. If you managed to do a review before today's session and go over your notes or what we did yesterday, then if you can remember the phrase, then I want everybody at home to say that phrase out loudly to yourself now, just to recall it. Okay, see if you can remember it. Does anybody in the group here want to say it?
خص ضغط قط.
Yes, jazakumullahu khairan. It is khussa ضغط. Okay, very good. It's khussa ضغط قض. So those are your heavy letters. Now you notice seen, meme over here, the new word that we're doing, seen, meme, wow, and ta. None of them are in this phrase, so they're all light letters. Okay, so we're not going to try to direct our voice towards the roof of the mouth. We're going to try and make it come straight out. Okay, you'll also notice that next to the meme we have a alif saghira. Next to the wow we have a alif saghira. This means that again they are both if in continuation. If we're going to carry on reading after samawatin, we're then going to go on to the next word, then they are both mad tabi'i or mad asli. They are 2 counts. They both should be prolonged. The meme and the wow have to be prolonged the same time. This is how we get our balance in our recitation. The seen, however, doesn't have it, which means the scene can't be long. We can't say samawatin, right? That's all too long. The sa, we have to keep it 1, and then the meme and the wow are the 2 letters that are doubled in timing. So we say samawatin. Try that.
Samawatin.
Okay, now I'm going to combine that with the next word. Now listen carefully. For those of you that are especially new to Tajweed, if you are doing this for the first time, then pay particular attention to how I say that the ending of the ta and how I then transition to the ta. Samawatin tibaqa.
Samawatin tibaqa.
Right, again. Samawatin tibaqa.
Samawatin tibaqa.
Okay, so now just to come back and just do a little bit of explaining to you. So yesterday we looked at this image. Can everybody see the new image that I've shared?
Yeah.
Okay, so we shared this image and I spoke to you about we were looking at the arrows and we were saying that the arrows here were the direction of sound. We said that for light letters, the sound just comes straight out. And we said for the heavy letters, the sound goes up towards the roof of the mouth. Okay. Now I want you to look at the next image, because what happens is as we do this, when we direct the sound of the when we direct the sound of the voice upwards towards the roof of the mouth for heavy letters, then this is what happens as a result. Okay, what you'll see here is you've still got your the sound of the voice going up. These are your yellow arrows here. So the sound of the voice is still going upwards, but because of the roof of the mouth, the sound is then bounces off. Okay, it bounces off and it starts just moving around, hitting the tongue, hitting the mouth, until eventually it finds its way out. Okay, but this bouncing almost gives the heavy letters a sound of, in English they'll say it's like an echoey effect, or they'll say it's a fatness, and it's a result of you directing the sound of the mouth upwards. Because it's upwards and there's a block there, it hits the hard palate, it then bounces off and it keeps doing it. And that's why when you say the letter qaf, you should find that, or you should hear that it's not just, for example, qa, it's qa, qa. There's a slight sort of echo or a ring or not hollowy, but yeah, it's kind of like a hollowy sound to it. But there's an echoey sound. You could call it hollowy, yeah, or a ring to it that you hear. Okay, and that's the sound that you want. Qa. If I say, for example, ra, ra, it's not just a ra, it's a ra, ra. There's an echoey sound that you hear, and that's what you should be hearing with the heavy letters. Okay, let me bring you back. So the other thing I wanted to mention, so actually let's put that into practice. Let's see if we can do that now. So let's come back to our word khalaqa. Okay, now I'm going to say it like that. I'm not going to, actually, it's probably better to say in continuation just for the sake of practice. I don't want you getting into the habit of breaking things up. So we will say it as a one continuous word, but I want you to move from, so if you're hearing a ring, if you find that you're saying the lam in the same way, then that would be incorrect, because lam is not part of this phrase. You have to go back to light. Okay, so it's kha la qa khalaqa
خلق
khalaqa.
خلق
Good. Right. Excuse me. Then we're going to think about the next heavy letter. So what I want to do is, there's certain heavy letters which have an extra added element to them, which makes them even heavier. They have an extra oomph to them. Okay. And if you look at, for example, from khussa ضغط انقذ, it is the letter sad, the dad, the ta, and the dha. These four letters, and they're quite easy to remember because they kind of go together. Sad, dad, they look they're paired already. So sad, dad, ta, and dha. They have this extra heaviness, which comes from something called the itbaq. Okay, so for those of you that are familiar with this, this is what I'm going to discuss now, inshallah. So how do we make these letters heavier than, for example, the kha, gha, qa? So the only ones that are left which are still heavy but not as heavy as the others are kha, ghain, and qaf. Okay, kha, ghain, and qaf. So these are the letters that are, yes, they are heavy, they are isti'ala letters, but how are we going to make the sad, dad, ta, dha any different? Let me show you another image, inshallah. Let's go to, right. Okay. So you'll see here, we have another image, and what they're showing here is the makhraj of Allah. So you know how I've just said that Allah is one of those four which are extra heavy. And the first thing you'll notice is the direction of sound, the white arrows now, are not just going in a sort of diagonal fashion. They're kind of going not horizontally, vertically upwards. Okay, they're going straight up. Okay, and it's this extra sort of this extreme change in direction of sound that brings about an even heavier sounding dha. Okay, sometimes people describe it as trapping, because what happens is the sound kind of goes up and then it's just sort of in this region and it's trapped in this region. Okay, so there's a gap, you'll notice, between the tongue and the roof of the mouth. The back of the tongue is raised, but notice it's not touching. Okay, it's not actually touching the soft palate, there's just a gap, but it's raised. Okay, remember we said yesterday about the heavy letters, your back of the tongue goes up when we say ah, for example. So you've still got the back of the tongue up, but this time you've got this space in between the tongue and the roof of the mouth, and your sound is being trapped there. So sometimes if students find it a little bit difficult, what I say to them is, imagine that you're kind of, what you're trying to achieve is trying to keep the sound inside your mouth. So sometimes it's very easy to say ba and the sound comes out. In this case, what you're trying to do is trying to hold the sound and stop it from coming out. So you're saying here, la. If I let the sound of the la come out, I would say la, la. That's kind of coming out. That's without the itbaq. It's still heavy, but it hasn't got the itbaq. The. If I want the itbaq to be law, it's even heavier, because now I'm trying to make my sound go straight up in my mouth, and at the same time I'm trying to keep my sort of stop the sound from coming out smoothly and easily. I'm trying to keep it inside. Okay, so let me just come back to the screen so we can practice. So we're going to first practice with the letter sad. Actually, we're not going to practice all the letters because we will do them as they come, inshallah. So let's do the letter that we actually have with us today, which is the letter ta. So we're going to do this letter because we see it here in the ayah. I'm just going to tidy that up a bit. You see it here, the ta. So the makhraj of the ta is the tip of the tongue. And it's not just the very tip of the tongue. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can show you more clearly, inshallah. So if this is your tongue, okay, this is the front of the tongue, this is the back. So from the front of the tongue, you'll notice that you have the tip. You're going to be using, now, I mean, you could look at the tip in two ways. You could say this is the very tip, the very front edge. But then this part, the top surface, just behind it, is also referred to as the tip, okay? So what you want is not just the very tip, but you want a little bit of the top surface of the tongue as well, okay? So you're using this area here, okay? And what you're doing to the tip of the tongue is it is going, if you look at my mouth model again, and you can see this is the top, okay? And you'll notice when you look at the tongue, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it in the, yeah, you should be able to see it in the camera. You'll notice here that you have a part, and you should be able to feel this with your tongue. If you actually get your tongue and just run it behind your teeth, you notice there's a flat bit here, and then it's sort of there, and then there's like quite a, it's not a dip because it goes upwards, but there's suddenly a change, and it suddenly starts to rise. And and that's just after, and then you start feeling these ridged bits, okay, these sort of extra sort of bumpy bits just behind. You don't want to go as far as this. You want to stay on the flat part just behind the teeth, okay, the upper two incisors. So the tip of the tongue goes here. The tip and the top, a little bit of the top of the tip goes here. Okay, that's the part that you're touching. Now, three letters share this. Let me share my screen again. Three letters share the same articulation point. It comes from the same place. Okay, and they are ta, ta, and dal. Okay, we're only focusing on the ta today. Now, because ta is a heavy letter, we've got to make sure the back of the tongue is lifted. Okay, so we're saying ta. And also, even when it has a kasra like it has here, we're saying ti. So can everybody say ta? Ta. Yeah, so remember we said about keeping the voice in, trying to make it go straight up in the towards the roof of the mouth, not pointing diagonally forward anymore, but straight up. Ta. Now try ti. So you notice with the ti, again, you've got an extra, you've got that extra, it's not just ti, it's ti, but you've got to be careful not to let your lips come together when you say this. Keep your lips rested. They're not coming together at all, okay? And you're just dropping. Ti. Good. طيباقة. Better. And remember for the qaf, you don't want to circle the lips because I'm hearing a little bit of qo. Don't want qo, I want qa. طيباقة. Right, let's try this again now. So when we go from samawatin, we go to the ta. As we're saying tin, our tongue doesn't actually go to the makhraj of the noon. It doesn't say tin. Instead, I go close to the makhraj of the ta. So you know where the ta is very close to noon anyway, but basically you're not touching. You're getting ready for the ta, but your tongue is not touching the place of ta. It's just really close to it. And when that happens, your voice, a little bit of your voice can come from your mouth, a little bit of the sound can travel through the nose. You've got both going on at the same time. I've done this very quickly today, but we're going to go over this again when it comes up again, inshallah. So if it hasn't fully made sense, don't worry. As long as you know that you're going towards from a light T to a ta, and that you're not going and pressing where noon is. You're not saying tin. You're saying tin, tin, tin. You're getting ready for that heavy ta. Okay, let's try this again. سماوات طباقا. سماوات طباقا. الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا.
الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا
Okay, now let's try the next one. We have here, okay, we have ما ترى.
ما ترى.
Yeah, the meme has the alif with it. So you have to, hold on a sec. You have the alif with it. So this is 2 counts. You can't just say ma. You have to say mata, mata. And then also the ra has an alif with it too. So that's going to be 2 counts too. The ta in the middle is 1. Ma tara,
ما ترى.
ma tara.
ما ترى.
Now here again, we have a heavy kha. We're going to do the lam rule that we've already learned. We're going to move to the qaf, and then we're going to join the qaf with the ra. Okay, the ra here is heavy. Even the joining ra is heavy. So when you say khalqir rahman, qir, that qi movement to the ra, qir, that first ra is also heavy. Okay, and then you keep it heavy even when you say the fatha. So let's try this. في خلق الرحمن.
في خلق الرحمن.
Just be careful to make sure that for the qaf, you are going to the soft palate. You don't have to make this, because it's got a kasra, it is still heavy, but you don't need to over-exaggerate the heaviness here, okay? The kha we want to keep as heavy as we did before, but the qaf can be a little bit less, but it's still considered heavy. Kha, khalqir rahman.
خلق الرحمن.
And the lam is light. So we don't say khol. If you're saying khol, then the lam is heavy. Khol. By the time you get to the lam, there should be a slight smile. Khol. في خلق الرحمن.
في خلق الرحمن.
Then we have here من تفاوت.
من تفاوت.
Now again here what you're doing is the noon here is getting hidden, and we did see this before with the qaf. The noon is getting hidden in the sense that your tongue is not going to the place of noon. You're not saying min. Instead what you're doing is, you know where the makhraj of ta is, and we just said ta is the same as the ta. Remember at the bottom here we've said that the ta and the ta and the dal share the same makhraj. So it's the same place. That is the tip of the tongue and the little bit of the top of the tip, just behind the upper 2 front teeth. Okay, you're getting ready, but you're not hitting that place yet. You're not touching it. You're just very close to it. And because you're not touching it, there's a gap, and the sound can still travel through the mouth, and it can travel through the nose. من تفاوت.
من تفاوت.
Don't stop the sound. Once you've think you've finished the ikhfa and you're ready to move on without breaking the sound of your voice. من تفاوت.
من تفاوت.
Okay, let's try from ما ترى. ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت.
ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت.
Now, if we were in class, I would have made a point of trying to get you all to recite in sync. That's not possible because of the connection, different people connecting, and therefore I can't actually get you to recite in sync. But if you keep all the balance right and you're holding the letters that should be held, so you've got your 2 count ma, your 2 count ra, the fi is also 2 counts because of the ya with it. You've also got the meme with the alif saghira, which is also, the meme is also for 2 counts. If you're holding the things, tafawut, the fa also has a mad alif with it, that is also 2 counts. So if you're holding in the right places, then normally if we were together in a class, you would be in sync, okay? I'm going to try from the beginning. And then we'll do the last part, inshallah. الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا.
الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا.
ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت
ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت
and you hold that for a little while من تفاوت
من تفاوت.
Okay, then we come to the next part. That was better, mashallah. Because for those of you that do know, the ghunna here is a kamil ghunna, so it's a complete ghunna, and that's why we stay on it for a little bit. The next part here, the ra here is going to be heavy. So if this is something new, make a note of it. And I know you can see this hamzatul wasl here, but we're going essentially from the fa to the ra, and the ra is heavy, so we're saying far. Okay, and then we're joining the ain with the lam. So I'm going to say both words together. Farji'il basara.
البصر.
Be careful here. The sad we know is in hussa. So this is a heavy letter. The ra is a letter which is sometimes heavy, sometimes light. In this case, it is heavy. The ba is light. So we have to say ba, not ba. Okay, we can't say ba. We have to remember what we said about the shape of your lips. A little bit out, little bit down. Ba, ba, ba. Farji'il basara. Also the fa. So be careful of the fa at the beginning is light, and then it's a heavy ra after it, and then the ba. So the fa and the ba, we want to try and keep them heavy. Sorry, keep them light. Fa, farji'il basara. Ba, al-basara. Al-basara. Okay, farji'il basara. البصر فارجع البصر. That's better. Now again, the lam here is just the same as the lams that we saw before. So we're going to hold it, then go to the ta and the ra. And the ra again is 2 counts, the ta is only 1. Okay. هل ترى. Now the ha, be careful of the ha. The ha here is from the bottom. Remember when we talked about the hamza, we said it's like when you say aha, aha, this ha, ha, ha. This ha is the one that you want to say. That you're not forcing any extra air out when you say this ha. Okay, it's just whatever comes natural. Ha, ha, ha. هل ترى. Much better. And then here we have again a similar thing which is going on with when we did min tafawut. We have again min futur. So what you want to do here is again, you're not going to go to the makhraj of noon. Okay, you're not going to go to, so you're not saying min and your tongue is not touching the makhraj of noon. Instead, you're getting ready for the fa, right? So as you say min, because my bottom lip is not touching the teeth, but it's getting very close to the teeth so that I'm ready for the fa. Min, min, min futur. And the ta, remember, is a heavy ta. So we want to keep the, remember we said it's the trapping one, the itbaq one. So we say futu, tu, min futur. Alhamdulillah. Right, let's start from the, let's just say it once, inshallah, from the beginning, and then I think that's, we've got to call it a day. الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا.
الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا
ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت.
ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت.
Be careful not to say تفا، تفا، تفاوت.
تفاوت.
Okay, now remember with this next one, be careful of the fa and be careful of the ba. فارجعي البصر. Oh, sorry, let me finish the whole thing. فارجعي البصر هل ترى من فطور.
فارجعي البصر هل ترى من فطور.
Alhamdulillah, may Allah make it easy for all of you and bless you with recitation, beautiful recitation of the Quran that He is pleased with, and as was revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Quran al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikri al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
وعليكم السلام.
عليكم السلام.